Hey everyone, welcome back to the Creative JuggleJoy Podcast. I'm Kaylie Edwards, your go-to multi-passionate mompreneur from the UK, and I'm here with the wonderful Delores Naskrent, who's joining us all the way from Canada. Today's episode is a topic that's close to both our hearts, balancing multiple passions. Whether it's juggling creative projects, family, work or health challenges, we've got some stories, tips and a little bit of wisdom to share with you.
Kaylie, for sure, I think that balancing multiple passions alone is something that is almost too crazy to discuss. But I think we're both cut from the same cloth. I am in a constant juggling act, and you and I have both talked about this quite a few times with the challenges that we've faced. Surprisingly, between the two of us, despite our range in age, we have a lot in common when it comes to that. In the last few years alone, I've had to face cancer, both my own and my husband's, and I've had lots of ups and downs with business and lots of challenges in my personal life. So I totally get it.
Yes, we do. By the end of today's episode, we hope you'll walk away with practical tips, inspiration for managing your multiple passions without feeling like you're constantly dropping the ball. We know it's not easy, but trust us, finding that balance is possible. Delores, let's kick things off by talking about how juggling multiple passions is a challenge that so many of us face. What's your take on why this is such a common struggle?
Yeah, it really is a balancing act. I love creating. I love experimenting and coming up with fun ideas and working with all kinds of different software. I really think that that's my forte, learning new software and creating projects. Also, something that I'm really passionate about is passing on information to those who need it. And, I'm sure that just comes from having been a high school teacher for 30 years. But I always want to try to make it easy for people. And I can show them because I've done it, so many times. And when I know a way to do something, I know that showing somebody is going to help them so much. It's going to make a real impact on them. So for me, the multiple passions of creating and of helping are huge because both of these require so much of my hands-on kind of time. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. For me, living with chronic illnesses like fibromyalgia, joint hypermobility syndrome and scoliosis adds a whole other layer of complexity. There are days when I'm just not able to meet deadlines or work on my business because my body needs rest. I used to beat myself up about it, feeling like I was failing, but over time I've learned to give myself grace and accept that this is my reality. I'm not Superwoman and I can't push through everything, even sometimes I wish I would. I have to take the time to heal and get better. And let's not forget about the joys of having a toddler. Aston was just a baby when I started my current business, and as a parent knows, young kids come with their own set of challenges and demands. They wake up in the night, throw tantrums, pick up every bug going around. They want your attention 24/7. Sometimes I can't even go to have a pee without him clinging to me. So I've had to learn to be flexible and not set unrealistic expectations from my time. Delores, I know you're also had your fair share of challenges when it comes to balancing your creative passions with everything else going on in life. How have you managed to juggle all those roles over the years?
Oh gosh, Kaylie, that can be such a long story. I can totally relate to all of those things. I can remember one show season when we were doing, in-person sales. So we were traveling to craft shows around the province. So let's say within 2 to 3 hours of where I live. We were right in the thick of it. Like literally my daughter, Che, who has helped me with my business for many years, my husband, my kid, everybody in my household, when we were in show season, everybody was involved. And I can remember one day I was out in my shop because we were doing our own manufacturing. So I have a giant table saw, and I was out there on my own cutting a piece of wood that I used for my plaque mounting. And something happened, and the plaque that I was working on shot back from the table saw and broke my arm. So, yes, can you imagine? So, do you think I should have taken some time off? Yes, I probably should have, but literally we were days before a show. I remember going to the hospital, getting my arm put into a cast, going to school the next day, teaching 9 to 5, and then coming home the next day and doing it all over again. So if you can believe that, with a broken arm, working full time, come home at the end of the day and still work because we had to get ready for a show. And at that time, my eldest daughter, she was right in there with me, and we were creating all of the product ourselves. But even when she was really young, she was helping me at craft sales, even if it was just to keep an eye on her little sisters, because I had two other girls that would come with us. So she'd be helping me set up the sale, but she was also there to help me take care of my other two kids. I didn't have the luxury of being able to leave my kids with someone when I had to go and do this work. So yes, just imagine.
Yes, I don't know how you did it with 3 kids. I can hardly deal with one child at this point. That's why I ended up moving away from physical products, doing my candles, handcrafted candles, because when I got pregnant, I just couldn't imagine trying to do it around a baby as well.
Yeah.
One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that you have to be realistic about what you can accomplish, especially when you've got so much going on. For example, I recently had to make a tough decision not to apply for a few collaborations that I was really excited about this month. The deadlines were just too close together, and I knew that if even one thing went wrong, it would turn into a stressful, chaotic mess. Instead, I decided to wait until after the holiday to tackle those opportunities. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was the right choice for my own sanity. So, what about you, Delores? What strategies have you found most effective in managing your time and energy, especially when everything you've got on your plate?
Well, you know what I've had to do, Kaylie. I've had to hire people. That's how you came into my life. So I have to structure my days, really carefully. So what I do is I try to do my most important sort of thinking and organizing things in the morning when my mind is still fresh, because that really is a thing. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older, but like really the morning is when I can really do the important stuff. And in the afternoons, then I try to focus on catching up with the tasks that I can either pass on to someone else, so I'm creating work for you probably, or for someone else, but I can complete the, instruction and the organizing of what needs to go to whoever that other person is. And also for myself, I've learned that I have to batch a lot of my work. I didn't know anything about this back in the day. I wish I had, but an example of this would be that I have right now recorded all of the classes I need until the end of April of 2025. So that, I know that sounds crazy, but I literally just worked on projects, created a whole bunch of projects, and recorded. So I would probably spend, let's say, 2 evenings working on and perfecting a project, and then I would immediately record it the next day. So I just got on a roll, and I felt like, I don't know, I guess because it takes a lot of steps to edit and upload classes and doing all of that creative stuff, it was easiest for me to just hammer them all out one after the other. So that's kind of how I've done it. And I've now got all of that recorded. Everything is ready to go. Now it's in the process of being rough edited. So my daughter does all the rough editing. Then I get it back. But at the same time, then I can do batch creation of all the course outlines, and then batch creation of all of the graphics that are necessary that need to go along with the projects. And I can create all the digital downloads. And of course, having worked with you now, I do understand also the whole process, why this is important, because we're also promoting these classes. So it's important for me to work this way so that you can do your job. And then that leaves my evenings free to relax on my iPad. So then I go back, kind of almost through that whole thing again. So, learning and creating the projects in this way also then just keeps me really ahead on knowing my software thoroughly, so I don't know, have I answered your question? I mean, I feel like I have, kind of.
Yes. I think obviously your organisation skills surpass mine sometimes. You have way ahead with content till 2025, and I don't even know what I'm posting next week at this point, because I'm still catching up with all the other projects. But that is just life, and at least reality for me right now, and is something that I'm working on, and part of this podcast is going to be helping others do the same thing. So balancing all these passions isn't just about time management, it's also about your mindset. And for the longest time, I struggled with guilt whenever I couldn't work on my business because of my health or because Aston needed me. But I've learned that it's okay to put some things on hold. For me, it's been crucial to create a sustainable business model with as much automation and passive income streams as possible. That way, when I'm down for the count with an illness, I'm not losing huge chunks of time and money. Delores, I know you've also had to balance your career passions with some serious life challenges. Can you share a time when you really struggled to balance everything? How did you get through it?
Oh, gosh, there's so many moments I could choose from that I don't even know where to start, honestly. I guess one of the things that really comes to mind when we're talking about this, it was really significant, I think, because I think it's really changed the trajectory of my business. I love Bonnie Christine. And anybody who knows me knows that I really, really think highly of her and consider her to be one of my mentors. And I had first heard of her and started to follow her on Skillshare many, many years ago when she was really quite young, and she was just starting out, and she was teaching originally on Skillshare. And at one point she started the Immersion program. So this is several years ago, and I really wanted to do it. I said to myself, someday I'll do it. And I kept doing this year after year, and I knew that she was making a big impact in the industry, but I just could not justify spending the amount of money that her program cost. So it was kind of, she makes a big point about this herself, that she talks about her story of choosing to become a surface pattern designer, and she literally said it out loud. She was going to become a surface pattern designer. She wanted to create patterns. Woke up 6 months later and realized that she had literally not done one thing towards her goal. And it really, I don't know, that hit me, I guess, because at that point, I really felt the same way, but I still just couldn't pull the trigger. I just couldn't justify spending the amount of money on the program. I didn't realize how valuable it was. But a few years back, now this is, what year is this now? So it's probably, this is the third year now. Yes, it is the third. So I guess about 3.5 years ago, I went to the doctor with an issue. I was shocked to find out I had cancer. So I felt perfectly healthy, and it came as a complete surprise, believe me. it was just a fluke that my doctor discovered it. And, you know, it was just so shocking to find out that I had cancer when I felt 100% okay. I went in for surgery, which was supposed to be a very minor surgery, laparoscopic. I had cancer in my womb, so my uterus. It was uterine cancer, and I woke up in the hospital bed, completely like stitched up from my belly button down to you know where, and oh my goodness, it was horrible. It was just unbelievable. There had been a complication, and they had nicked my intestines. And so what should have been a very minor surgery, I woke up in complete agony. And I know it's going to sound really weird, but that was the moment when I decided I was going to take immersion that year. So I know it sounds crazy, but it was like right then and there that I said, you know what? I can't put this off. I can't put this off anymore. I have to do this. So I committed, and I was recovering. And believe me, I was in terrible shape the first year that I was in immersion. But I knew that I knew Adobe Illustrator well enough that I could probably get through the course. So yeah, that was my first year of doing immersion, and it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, your story just it hits. Yeah, it really hits. Obviously, I've got family who've gone through cancer, and it's not easy. I've lost family members to it. I've got family members, luckily, that have recovered, and my partner's nan has just gone through it herself. I've had one family member this year. Well, the beginning of this year, I found out actually that she had cancer, and that turns out she's recovered now. But I found that out in pretty much the one sitting from my granddad, which nobody decided to tell me what had happened. Which sometimes happens in our family because we've got such a big family, and unfortunately, a lot of my mum's side is riddled. So yeah, it's difficult. Luckily I've not been through that myself personally, and I don't wish it upon anyone. And I'm just so thankful and grateful that you're still here.
Thanks so much, Kaylie. You know what? I'm sure it sounds cliche, but I don't know how I could have made it through at that time if I didn't have Bonnie, and if I didn't have this determination to make it work. Like, she really made an impact on me. And if any of you know or have been through the immersion program, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it still takes a lot of concentration in life for me to focus on one thing. But I think what that whole experience taught me was that life is short, and if you want something bad enough, you just need to pursue it. So I do whatever I can in the time that I have, and I love life and I love my job. So I do everything I can to stop myself from overextending myself, if you know what I mean. I just try to do everything that I can in the amount of time, my 9 to 5 kind of a thing. I do work a lot. Anybody who knows me knows that I work a lot, and I'm already, feeling like I need to slow down a little bit. So I definitely force myself to take more time to, like, we make a point of the day stops at 5:30, we have dinner. My mom comes over and has dinner with us. We go and hang out in our TV room. And other than Wednesdays when my husband is out, I always have family dinner. And I just spend my evenings not going back into my office, and I do it on purpose. I really have to force myself, though. I am one of those people that if there was nobody else around, I probably would be working on something and trying not to feel guilty about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like creativity has like anything to do with creativity, whether that's creating art or designs, pottery. Like I used to do ceramics. Like things like that were the one thing that used to get me through some of the toughest times I've been through in my life myself. I've been through, it's a whole that's whole different stories that I could add to this, but I'm not going to because I will ramble. But yeah, that's where creativity comes in, and I think a lot of people have that as well, where creativity, creating art, creating handcrafted things, digital art, all that sometimes comes from and stems from trauma or some bad experience that they're either going through or have been through, and that helps them. And I think that's why a lot end up in business as well, selling their own art, because they've got so much that they need to get rid of, like I used to. But yes, we will move on, and we'll talk about that another time. So another big thing I've learned is the importance of setting boundaries, not just with others, but with myself as well. And Delores is going through the same things as well. It's so easy to take on too much, especially when you're passionate about what you do. But I've realised that it's better to do a few things well than to spread yourself too thin and end up stressed out and burned out. And yes, I am still working on it. And so is Delores. Because it's just an ongoing process that you need to work on. So what about you, Delores? How do you decide which passion to focus on when time is limited, and how do you set boundaries to make sure you're not overextending yourself?
Yeah, like I said, it takes a lot of concentration not to let things distract me. I do make a lot of lists. I try to make an annual plan, which is something else that I have learned, through coaching. So I've been in Bonnie Christine's professional coaching as well, and that's one of the things that she really stresses, is to make sure that you're planning way ahead. So it helps me to not let things distract me, because then I always have this list that I'm going back to. And so I stop myself from feeling overwhelmed by doing that. I can look at the list and it grounds me. So I feel like making that sort of a solid plan is the way that I can get ahead, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, it makes sense. So, at the end of the day, it's so important to embrace all your passions without guilt. It's easy to feel like you're not doing enough, especially when you see others who seem to be juggling it all effortlessly, as we see on scrolling social media. But the truth is, everyone struggles at times, whether they show it or not. The key is to give yourself permission to follow your passions, even if it means not everything gets done perfectly. Delores, what advice would you give to somebody who feels overwhelmed by their many interests and isn't sure how to manage them all?
I think it's easy to be overwhelmed when you don't have a really solid plan. And like I said, I felt that way before I started to really track and write down things. I worked through a couple of workbooks and I started with kind of the main, excuse me, I started with the main most important goal, and then I kind of worked backwards from there. So I kind of charted it out. So it's almost like if you imagine a wall of sticky notes, and at the top is the ultimate goal of what you want to do, and then working your way down from there, all the little steps that you'd need to do in order to get to that big main goal. Because I think what happens is when you focus on the main goal, you could flail around for days doing nothing because you haven't really mapped out the in between steps that need to happen in order for you to get to that main goal. So I believe that mapping it out is what has made the biggest difference for me. And it's helped me to formulate that annual plan that I was talking about, which has then helped me to look for supports that I would need, So I think I've kind of got it figured out. I haven't got it like completely figured out by any means, but it's starting to work for me, and I can see a big difference when I compare where I am now with where I was a year ago or where I was 2 years ago. Like, such a huge difference. And it's because I'm doing those things like batching my work and, looking at all the things that have to be done and focusing on the one that has to be done right now first. And I agree with you 100%, Kaylie. It's more important to get the thing done than to not do the thing at all. So even if you're doing it at what you might not consider it to be 100%, 80% is fine. But at least it's done.
Yes, I totally agree. I keep seeing it from other entrepreneurs that, done is better than perfect, and I'm starting to use that so much more now. And good, as long as it's good quality, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can have mistakes, and you can put it out there and get feedback, and then you can edit it later if you need to.
That's right. Yeah, you can improve it.
Yes. And another point is going on to systems, like you've said, and working your way back with your plans. That is one thing that I've started doing this year more. Yes, I miss days. A lot of the time it's because my toddler decides to jump on me, and yes, doesn't want me to work. And then he'll throw me off for the day. But I'm doing more lists and sticking to tasks and checking them off, and it's helped me so much better than before when I was just kind of winging my days. And helping you this past year has helped me a lot more get organised, because obviously I have your commitments as well, not just mine.
Right.
But obviously, being a business entrepreneur, you also are responsible for your own time and getting your own things done. And I highly recommend anybody doing business, please spend some time and map out what you want and where you want to go and what tasks you want to be working on, and try and work on tasks that move you forward. Try and work on them daily, and you will start to see progress with your business.
Yep, I 100% agree with you there.
So there you have it. Some real talk and practical tips on balancing multiple passions. We hope you found today's episode helpful and that you're feeling a bit more inspired and equipped to handle your own juggling act. If you're looking for more tips, insights, or just want to keep up with what Delores and I are doing, be sure to join our mailing lists. The links will be in the show notes. Not only will you get updates on when new episodes drop, but you'll also receive more business advice, first to know about new courses and resources for your creative journey, and all the good stuff we don't want you to miss.
Yes, we both put lots into our clients, our people who we are serving. Our main goals are to inspire, and of course, the best place is to be on our mailing lists. That way, you'll get everything that we put out there It's one-on-one. You're not sharing us with all of the social media and everything else that's going on. You're literally right in our inboxes when you reply and when you're there with us. It's really up close and personal. Also, if you do enjoy our podcasts, be sure to pass on our contact info to anyone else that you think that we can help.
And we'd love to hear from you if you've got your own strategies for balancing multiple passions, or if today's episode resonated with you. Share your thoughts on social media or in our community. Let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah, I love this. I love hanging out here with you, Kaylie, and I'm feeling like we're hanging out with a bunch of people. So let's keep this going.
Yes, let's do that. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Creative JuggleJoy Podcast. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep juggling, keep smiling, and remember, there's joy in the journey even when it's a bit chaotic.